we are so glad that they did. This cycle, we got 558 applications from 7 countries and 46 states. It was our largest and most diverse cycle yet. And so we're incredibly proud of all the finalists that have made it this far. It's been definitely a competitive cycle, and there are many good ideas throughout. And so we're excited to share those 10 with you today. And so to kick us off, I would love to be able to bring up Adrian, who's our CEO here at the Workers Lab. Adrian?
Thanks, Joshua. Can you hear me and see me? Uh-oh. Can you hear me and see me, everybody? Yep. I think so. Okay, cool. Good morning, everybody. I want to thank Joshua, who is, this is his first time doing this, and he's doing a terrific job. And the rest of the team, of course, for doing a bang up job with this program. I also want to thank the members of our board who are tuning in, who we love so much. Thank you for all of your support and all of your guidance. Lastly, to our funders, there are 3 of them who graciously came to the table with us on this to make all of this possible. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Kyra Wood, and Michael George, thank you so much. The New World Foundation, thank you, Noah. And of course, Schmidt Futures, thank you, Zoe. Thank you all for making this possible. And thanks to everyone for making time to be with us today. I know it's an incredibly painful and challenging time for a lot of folks, and I wanted to recognize that right up at the top, and extend my love and my gratitude to everyone who has either lost a loved one during this time, or a friend, or is consoling somebody who's lost somebody, or whatever. I learned yesterday that a close cousin of mine passed away from COVID. His name was Chito, which is a Mexican nickname. His actual name is Raul. And he was a worker. And he had a good job. He worked for the Coca-Cola company as a truck driver and delivered soda to a bunch of different markets and vendors here in the Los Angeles area. I thought it was a good job. Livable wage, right? He had really good benefits and a retirement plan. He retired early. And I do believe that his job is a big reason why he was able to be a decent and good person that did good things in this world, this incredibly hard world, right? And boy, isn't that what we all should be striving for as humans, I think. To be good and to do good things in this world, regardless of who you are, or what you look like, or where you come from, or what language you speak, or who you love. We should be able to be good and to do good things in the world. And we're talking about good jobs in this cycle. Thank you, Noah. And I think as a field, as a social sector, we have this proclivity to make the conversation about good jobs rocket science. And it's not, as I see it. It's not rocket science. We are literally talking about what people need to get up in the morning and to put one foot in front of the other and to go to work without worry or without reservation. Every worker, I think, and the Workers Lab thinks, should have that, should be able to go to work and say 4 things, right? And those 4 things are: I am safe, I am healthy, I am secure, and I am free. Joshua had the slide up. That's our vision in a nutshell. And yes, workers need power to be able to do that. Indeed, I believe my cousin was able to say that. And I believe our world is a better place because he could. And I think that the innovators that are going to speak today are trying to make that possible for workers all across the country in so many new, beautiful, and interesting ways. Some points of light and hope, if you will, at a time when we really need that. And so I am so proud to support them today, to be able to give them this platform. I'm extraordinarily grateful to them for all of the work that they've put into these presentations. and I'm really excited to dig in. So thanks, Joshua, and thanks to everyone again for being here today.
Thanks so much, Adrian. As you all well know, any of the work that we do, including your own projects and the projects of our finalists, none of this is done alone. It's impossible to tackle alone. They're big issues. And so, as Adrian mentioned, we really want to thank our three incredible partners at the table, both Kyra Woods and Michael George from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Noah from the New World Foundation, as well as Zoe Schlag from Schmidt Futures. And we are so lucky today to have Zoe here to give us some opening remarks. Zoe, take it away.
Thanks a lot, Joshua, and great to be with everyone today. I actually just want to start by thanking Adrian for grounding us the way that you did with that story. I think it's really important to remember that this is a really challenging time for a lot of people, and these are really personal experiences that we're going through. And yet there's a lot of hope, which a lot of you guys are going to see over the next couple hours. So hi, everyone. I'm Zoe Schlag. I am an entrepreneur in residence at Schmidt Futures, and we're really proud to be supporters of the Workers Lab and the Innovation Fund. Just quickly, a little bit about us. At Schmidt Futures, we bet early on exceptional people making the world better. The organization was founded by Eric and Wendy Schmidt as a philanthropic initiative that brings talent together into networks, that bets on the most promising ideas through competition, like the Innovation Fund, and equips people to scale through partners. We have 4 key areas of our work, which are inspiring scientific breakthroughs, advancing society through technology, promoting shared prosperity, and empowering exceptional talent. I work with our shared prosperity team, which is how we initially connected with the Workers Lab through my colleague, Martha Gimbel. And historically, our work in shared prosperity has been focused on strengthening and expanding the American middle class in order to increase competitiveness and improve quality of life. I don't think it'll come as a surprise that this past year has really put a force multiplier on the necessity of our work in the shared prosperity space. With so many Americans' health and economic security impacted by the pandemic over the past year, the scale, the scope, the urgency of our work in shared prosperity and working with partners like the Workers Lab has increased significantly. And that's why we're so excited about our work with them and our partnership on the Innovation Fund. And I'll just share what initially got us excited about working with this team is their approach towards innovation, which I've been in the impact investing world for about a decade, and I found it really unique. And that's the fact that they focus specifically on sourcing ideas from the workers themselves. At Schmidt Futures, we have a deeply held belief that innovation and talent can be found anywhere, but the talent often faces barriers to accessing opportunity. And with the Workers Lab, we found a partner who is deeply embedded in the communities they seek to serve, and therefore have really unique access to solutions and innovations that are derived directly from the lived experience of being a worker in America in 2020, which I think we can all see is needed now more than ever. And you know, why this work really matters to us. Working, as I said, working with partners is core to what we do. And we seek to work with partners in all aspects of our work. There are folks who are much more deeply embedded in the community than we may be. And when it comes to solutions for workers, it's abundantly obvious to me that the first and best place to look is solutions by the workers themselves. Again, this sounds obvious, but it's surprisingly rarely practiced. And this is increasingly evident how important this is given how the landscape has shifted in 2020 for American workers. We're in uncharted territory right now. So partnering with the Workers Lab has really given us the opportunity to respond quickly and really make sure that the way that we respond is aligned with what the workers are asking for themselves. Just a couple observations because I've been involved with this process from start to finish, learning with the team's approach towards how they develop their thesis around coming back to sourcing ideas, to selecting the top 10 finalists that you'll be hearing from today. And one of the things that I've really learned from this team that I take away both myself and we're really thinking about at Schmidt Futures is how to center workers and the quality of their jobs in everything that we do. If we want to have any kind of shot at repairing some of the worst effects of the pandemic on workers, I think where we need to start is with the workers themselves and the solutions they are building themselves. And when I look around the room at the finalists you're going to be hearing from today, I see all of the types of solutions we need for a just recovery. Just to call back to Adrienne's remarks earlier, I really deeply do believe that all workers should be able to say, I'm safe, I'm healthy, I'm secure, and I'm free. And I think you're going to see that in a lot of the finalists today. So I just want to give a quick shout out to the work that the Workers Lab has done. Thank you guys for letting us be a part of this journey with you. And then of course, most importantly, thank you to the founders who are building these organizations and these solutions for workers.
Thanks so much, Zoe. It's great to have you, and it's been great to have you on board as well, supporting us. And we are also so lucky to have had Noah and Michael and Kyra as well on board over the last 4 to 5 months. So thank you all so much for putting in the time and effort, because we know it's also a lot of time and effort on the other side, not just on the ends of the finalists. So we really appreciate that work that you've done. So if you missed it at the top, we are encouraging you to ask questions throughout our program today. We're just about ready to get started with our first presenter. And if you want to ask a question, feel free to do that using the Q&A function. As a reminder, your questions will be put in a queue and they'll be answered during the 5-minute segment after each presenter finishes their 7-minute pitch. And so as we sit here today, and as both Zoe and Adrienne have pointed out, just want to acknowledge that workers, our communities and family members are still experiencing the impact of this pandemic. So this cycle is very much still ongoing, even though for us it's closing out this portion, there's still a lot of work to be done. And this is really the reason why we continue to be invested in uplifting new ideas. And so without further ado, our first session is going to feature 3 innovators working on ideas that will support small businesses and entrepreneurs coming back. And so I'm really excited to introduce Martha. Martha, if you're ready, go right ahead.
I am. All right. Well, good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. My name is Marta Viciedo. I am the co-founder of Urban Impact Lab. And that's an organization that's been incubating Access Helps. So Access Helps was created to help small businesses across South Florida connect to the financial and programmatic resources that they need in order to recover from our current disruption, but more importantly, to grow with stability and strength. Before jumping in too far into Access, I'd like to share just a little bit about me. Thank you. I'd like to share just a little bit more about myself. I am a Miami native. So that basically means 2 things. My fuel of choice is Cuban coffee, which is otherwise known as sweetened jet fuel, and guava pastries. But in addition to being a Miami native, I've also had the opportunity to work with so many local businesses and organizations and individuals over the last 8 years. And if I can attest to anything about South Florida, is that we are a hot spot for small business activity. Entrepreneurship is in our DNA. It also might have something to do with how caffeinated we all are. But in South Florida, in Miami-Dade County alone, we have over 80,000 small businesses. Over 66,000 of those employ just 10 individuals or less. But together, they make up over 400,000 local jobs. That's a third of our local employment coming from these small businesses. And from our work over the last 10 months, we've realized that our biggest challenges are actually foundational. They're problems that have been long present in our small business ecosystem, and they've only really just been exacerbated by the pandemic. The silver lining to all of this is now we can see them clearly and we can take action. There's also one thing that's very clear to us. What we do right now to support our very diverse community of entrepreneurs, the ones that have struggled to stay open, and the ones that are also just emerging. as well as what we do to strengthen our small business ecosystem, will have impacts far into the future. By focusing on inclusion and access, we can grow from a community that has often missed out on resources and opportunities to a community that is well positioned when opportunities arrive, disaster or no disaster. We've also often been saddled with tools that just aren't useful. They end up taking a small business owner down a complicated and confusing path. But we can help entrepreneurs make meaningful connections with the programs and the resources and the individuals that can truly help them. And of course, all of this is rooted in the fact that most people, again, disaster or no disaster, at some point, they just need help. And we can assist tens of thousands of entrepreneurs find the resources that they need by doing some of the heavy lifting for them. That means working with entrepreneurs like Maria. Maria runs 2 small businesses in Miami-Dade County. She didn't qualify for the PPP or EIDL loans, but she did hear about a really great county-run small business loan program that through our outreach efforts, and she was able to access information and the support that she needed that led to her securing that small business loan. And it helped her bridge the most difficult time in her business. Since then, she has thrived, and she even came back to support us by doing a Spanish language webinar to share information about this program. So let's take a closer look at what Access is and what it does. For most users, Access is a digital tool. When they visit Access Helps, they are immediately greeted with a very simple and direct interface structured around their need. As they find opportunities, they are also connected with at least one or more of the organizations in our growing network of vetted service providers that we convened from day one. These organizations help Access users at no cost. And of course, many people want to be able to peruse on their own and understand what the best option is for their situation, comparing different opportunities. And that's why we invest so much time in understanding and breaking down the ins and outs of each opportunity we list, so users can focus on getting the help they need instead of trying to translate jargon and legalese. And the result of continuously developing and monitoring and digesting and sharing has been over 140,000 page views since we launched in April, with over 30,000 users and climbing. We were able to grow quickly because we focused on 3 things: leveraging our expansive network of partners and our local expertise, delivering a simple and intuitive user experience, and marrying a digital tool with analog tactics. So because that last one is one of our really deep core features, I'm going to dig into that one just a bit more. When we're talking about marrying digital and analog, what does that mean? Many communities, just like ours, are struggling with a deepening digital divide. But the only truly effective way of moving the needle within such a diverse community is to be able to get to people where they're at. And I mean physically where they're at, in person and in their own language, because our Black and Latin, Caribbean, and other communities of colors are the significant drivers of small business activity in this region. After meeting Maria, we were brought onto that team for that county loan program, because as so many other places across the country have struggled with, our county was just not getting those CARES Act dollars out quickly enough. Our job was to focus on 2 things: to assist with data capture and analytics, and design and implement an outreach strategy which we focused on door-to-door, business-to-business outreach. The result? Loan applications went from 20 per day, more or less, to over 100. That was a 630% increase. And it's precisely how Rodney here learned about the program, applied, and received his first ever small business loan. And it's how we helped get every last dollar of this CARES Act funded program to people like Rodney and Maria. With your investment, we can continue building on this work and lead the way towards inclusive recovery. So what will that investment mean? First, we'll be able to incorporate smarter, more interactive technology so users are better matched to the resources they need, and we gain deeper insight that in turn helps us inform local programs and policies. We can grow our coalition. That's our network of vetted service providers that help access users at no cost, which means more resources and greater capacity across the board. And it means that we can continue to meet small business owners where they're at, with outreach that is rooted in how they engage, not in how we want them to engage, which that means more access and opportunity for all. thank you for this, the time this morning or afternoon, and for all of the amazing support getting to this point. We know that with your investment and by working with the Workers Lab as partners, we can continue to achieve substantive progress in our community.
Thanks so much, Martha. I'm going to pull up some questions here. First question we had for you is, could you walk through sort of a little more of the specifics of the types of resources that you offer?
Sure. So Access does have two sort of sides. It has an individual side and it has a small business side. For the purposes of this conversation, I'll focus on the small business side. We list a number of different, there's like kind of two main areas. We do a lot around financial resources, and that can be anything from grants, small business loans. We are really working, so part of the coalition that we're targeted and growing is the CDFI, our community lenders, if you will. That network, we have about 8 to 9 in our community, and it's focusing on all of the opportunities, financial and sort of technical assistance related, that small businesses can apply to or take advantage of. What we know is that the majority of our small businesses are simply not getting this, this technical assistance, the ones that we're reaching. We recently did a study where we have about 90% of the small businesses that applied for that county loan program I talked about had never received business technical assistance. So it's a mix of financial resources and then technical assistance. So it could be coaching, it could be marketing, it could be a big issue in our area is getting our paperwork in order. A lot of our small businesses struggle with that. So it's a number of resources that cover all of those different areas.
Great, thank you so much. And then another question was, you mentioned sort of having to go door to door, sort of a two-part question here. One is, why is that so important, or why is that vital sort of in the community that you are? And the second being, how have you been navigating that through sort of the environment of COVID and reaching sort of these business leaders, workers where they're at?
Yeah, absolutely, great question. So in terms of just navigate, how we even started with the door to door, it's when I mentioned earlier that kind of survey that we did, 90% of our small business owners that were applying for help had never received any other help in the past, and they kind of heard about it by a lot of the outreach that was happening. That was a really big indication. That's sort of like a proof of concept that the individuals that are running these small businesses, you know, they have their head down and they're working. They also, you know, we have a really diverse community. So if we're looking to reach the Haitian community or the Haitian American community, they're listening to Haitian radio. They're not on Twitter or Instagram. They're not reading, you know, what's going on Facebook. They engage in very different ways. And so reaching them, going to them, actually providing a face to the program and allowing them to ask questions in the moment, not only gives them access, but it helps them build trust. It helps them put kind of themselves at ease so that they can move forward with a potential opportunity. In terms of like the sort of navigating, we did a couple of things. We did a bunch of mapping on our end so that we can very clearly see where the diverse pockets of small business concentration were throughout the county before we engaged, we went out. We're always using data to inform the work. And then of course we had a small team. We were incredibly careful. We asked for permission, but all of these small businesses are open. They can't afford to close, whether they are essential businesses or not. They needed, they're open, so they really needed that engagement. And so, of course, we observed all the protocols, we maintained distance, we wore protective gear, but we were also able to have really great conversations with each of the small business owners that spoke to us.
Great, thanks so much. And so we're getting some questions from our YouTube live stream as well. Does Access Help have plans to expand outside of South Florida?
Yes, before we would like to, and we think that that is an interesting and doable opportunity. We do feel though that there is about another 4 to 6 month window where we can build in that sort of smarter technology that we talked about, so that when it is exported, it's kind of a complete package. I mean, there's so much that we learned along the way. And so it's just a matter of getting it right. We're not developing brand new technology, but there's a technology and a process that goes together. And we just need a little bit more time before we can package it up as robustly as possible so that it, it works in other communities. Every community has a sort of specific need and approach. So we want to do the best job possible to prepare it for that.
Great. Thanks so much, Martha. I think those are all the questions we have for right now. Thanks so much for your pitch. It was really great. And thanks so much for telling us about your great work at Access Health.
Thank you, and good luck to everyone else.
Thanks. Great. So next up, we have Jordan. Jordan is piloting an idea through Rural Ideas Network. I'll let him talk a little bit more about that. But one of the biggest things we've been thinking about how can we uplift innovation in rural communities, especially communities that are hard to reach. So Jordan, if you're ready, you can take it away.
Thank you. Imagine you're a worker that has an idea to start a business, or maybe you already have a business and you want to see it grow. How would you go about making that happen? Well, you might meet with an SBDC counselor, participate in a peer learning event like 1 Million Cups, join a co-working space, maybe even apply for a startup accelerator. Those services would allow you to connect with entrepreneurs, coaches, and industry experts who could help you launch and grow your business faster and more efficiently. But what if you live in Oaks, North Dakota, which has a population of just 1,800 people? Oaks doesn't have a 1 Million Cups meeting, a co-working space, or an accelerator, and their local SBDC is 100 miles away in Fargo, 100 miles. So while studies indicate positive small business growth in America over the past decade, without even the basic ingredients of an entrepreneurial ecosystem, it's no wonder that these same studies also show the rural share of that growth was basically zero. That's bad news for the 60 million people who call rural America home. And if you're one of the 10 million Black, Indigenous, or people of color living in a rural community, research shows the odds are stacked even higher against you. Please don't misunderstand me. Rural communities understand the value of entrepreneurship. In fact, the rural leaders that we work with know that business growth is critical to their community's success. They simply don't have the resources, tools, or capacity. I'm Jordan Degree, and I'm part of the Rural Ideas Network, a nonprofit association created by and for rural entrepreneurs. We help level the playing field and give businesses and small communities a fighting chance. Now, I know the story so far has been depressing, but I'm happy to share that reinvigorating rural entrepreneurship doesn't require a complex solution. Like Adrian said, it's not rocket science. It's actually pretty simple. Rural entrepreneurs just need the same resources that larger cities have. So why don't they? Well, most resource providers employ a business model that's dependent on population density. That's why the vast majority only show up in large metro areas. Then, in March of 2020, COVID-19 hit in a big way, and there was a widespread shift to virtual meetings, schooling, and even social gatherings. As people became more comfortable connecting remotely, we recognized an opportunity to reinvent the model. Introducing Entrepreneur Labs, a simple, innovative way to deliver effective entrepreneur support services to any size community, anywhere in the country. Entrepreneur Labs allow a community partner, such as a city council or economic development group, to leverage our capacity and expertise to support their local entrepreneurs. After a community partner contracts with us to launch an Entrepreneur Lab, their local businesses can use their lab to access free, unlimited one-on-one coaching, monthly roundtables, and panel discussions with industry experts, all delivered 100% virtually. And since every Entrepreneur Lab is white labeled and features the local partner's brand, they get all the credit for delivering these services in their community. We call that a win-win. Entrepreneur Labs have helped people like Adiola, an immigrant from West Africa who lives in Wahpeton, North Dakota. She's launching an organic skincare company, and she signed up for coaching through her local EDA's Entrepreneur Lab. We're helping Adiola use customer input to create a marketing strategy improve product descriptions to drive more sales, and even build her first website. Adiola is a welder at CAT and is often required to work 60-hour weeks with just 2 vacation days a year. She hopes launching her own business will allow her to have more control over her hours and her life. Then there's Molly, who's run a yoga in the schools business for years. When COVID-19 forced schools to go virtual, Molly was worried she'd lose contracts, have to lay off workers, maybe even close her business. Molly signed up for coaching services through her local credit union's Entrepreneur Lab, and we helped Molly think about her business in new ways. When we started working with Molly, she had contracts in 32 schools. Now her programs are in 150 schools. She's been able to promote part-time employees to full-time, has added 5 new jobs, and has increased her revenue by 300% compared to 2019. We've been piloting Entrepreneur Labs for the past 9 months, and stories like Adiola's and Molly's aren't unusual. So far, we've launched 26 Entrepreneur Labs across 5 states. These labs make effective entrepreneur support services available to more than 600,000 rural residents. And we know they're effective because we've provided hundreds of coaching sessions, and 87% of the businesses we've served report positive growth. And remember, this is in the middle of a devastating pandemic that has shuttered thousands of businesses and led to record unemployment. Our community partners tell us they love Entrepreneur Labs for 3 key reasons. First, they're affordable, with an average cost of just 17 cents per capita annually. Second, they have immediate impact. An Entrepreneur Lab can be live and available to local businesses in less than a week. And third, they create almost no administrative burden, since services are 100% powered by Rural Ideas Network staff. Most importantly, partners love Entrepreneur Labs because they deliver the tools, resources, and capacity that businesses need. The Rural Ideas Network was built by experienced entrepreneurs, so it probably won't surprise you that we operate on a solid business model and have been 100% financially sustainable from day one. We're even lucky enough to have funders who believe in our work so much that they provide startup scholarships to communities, making it easier for them to partner with us to launch labs. Your partnership will allow us to scale Entrepreneur Labs beyond the upper Midwest, impacting more rural entrepreneurs, creating more meaningful jobs for rural workers, and helping more communities fight rural decline. Over the next 12 months, with your support, we'll be able to launch at least 90 new Entrepreneur Labs with a focus on serving Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and communities in the Inland Empire and Central Valley regions of California. We'll increase the number of entrepreneurs we serve by 500%, and we'll hire at least 2 new staff with backgrounds and experiences that reflect the increasing diversity of the entrepreneurs we serve. Over the past 9 months, we found that the more impact we create, the more communities want to partner with us. Your support right now will ripple well into the future. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and your dedication to helping people and communities have a fair shot at success. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jordan. Just waiting for the questions to roll in here. So I think the first question here we have is, have you done any work or are you actively doing work in any manufactured housing communities?
That's a great question. We don't ask our entrepreneurs that we serve what type of housing they live in. So that's a hard one for me to answer right now. However, given the prevalence of manufactured housing in rural communities, I think that there's a pretty high likelihood that some of the entrepreneurs we're serving absolutely are residents in communities like that.
And then you mentioned positive growth. Would you like to dive into a little more detail of what specifically you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. At the beginning of every entrepreneur coaching session that we provide, we ask the entrepreneurs that we're serving if since starting their coaching, their business has experienced positive, no change, or negative growth. And so we really leave the definition of positive growth up to each individual entrepreneur. For early stage businesses who are yet to launch, sometimes it's just a matter of feeling like they can actually do it, right? Launching a business is a really big thing and it can be overwhelming. There's a lot of things you have to do. So it looks like a large mountain in front of you. And so for those early stage, kind of still in the idea phase, just knowing that there's a pathway that we're helping them follow to launch their business is really comforting. But for existing businesses, that growth is adding jobs, increasing revenue, finding new opportunities for sales or new markets to serve. And so we leave that up, but 87% of the businesses that we serve have reported positive growth. By the way, the other 13% have just reported no change. And usually that's because we've just started working with that business and they're still getting to know us and we're still getting to know them.
Yeah, could you also give a little bit more detail into the specific states and communities that you're in right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So our Entrepreneur Labs, we launch them always with a local partner. It's the local partners Entrepreneur Lab. We just power the services for them. And so we are in 5 states. We're in Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota, Illinois, and Wisconsin. We have partners that have made Entrepreneur Labs available to their local residents. And we have served, again, in our 9-month pilot period, we've served 63 businesses through 158 sessions. We've created a net job gain of 28 jobs. So we asked business owners since our last session, have you added or lost any jobs? And so far in those 9 months, we've helped create 28 new jobs, which I think is pretty impressive during a pandemic. And then in terms of who those community partners are that launch Entrepreneur Labs, I think this is one of the coolest parts about the model is that communities invite us in because they identify a gap within their community and they see the tools that we provide as a meaningful way to fill that gap. And so we have partnered with organizations like local chambers of commerce to launch an Entrepreneur Lab. We've partnered with local economic development committees. Some of these rural communities don't even have an economic development staff person. They have an all volunteer committee to foster economic development in their community. You can imagine how much work that is in a rural community, especially for an all volunteer committee. So they're able to bring us in to help really build that capacity and offer these tools locally. We've partnered with county-wide economic development groups to serve entire counties. We've partnered with Main Street programs. We've even partnered with some private businesses. I mentioned the credit union that we partnered with to help Molly, that Molly access our services through. We've partnered with telecom companies in rural communities. Those are very prevalent throughout Iowa, and sometimes the local community doesn't have the resources. So we're even seeing private businesses stepping up to make these services available to the entrepreneurs in the community because they understand that business growth is critical to their community's future success.
So you mentioned partnering with the Chamber of Commerce's sort of in the local areas that you're doing work in. We actually had a question about what does that sort of cost breakdown look like when you do that?
Yeah, so with an Entrepreneur Lab, we make it available to a community partner based on their service area population. So they identify who they want to make these services available to, whether it's a geographic location. Some chambers decide they want to make it available to their entire community as a business recruitment strategy. Some decide they want to make it available only to their members. We kind of figure that out with them. But they're super affordable. Like I said, right now they average about 17 cents per capita per year. What that looks like in actual dollars is for a community of up to 2,000 people, service area population of 2,000 people, $2,000 a year. For a community of up to 7,000 people, it's $3,500 a year. And it kind of keeps going up from there. For Sherburne County, Minnesota, which is a rural county, but has a population of 88,000 people across the county, it was $25,000 a year. That's one of our biggest partners so far for a single Entrepreneur Lab. And then, like I mentioned, to help communities really kind of bite into this and start to see the impact in their community for that first year, we also have funding partners that help us fund a portion of the cost of those labs. So for rural communities in Iowa, instead of $2,000, they might only pay $1,000 or $1,500 for that first year, so that they can see how these services really create value in their impact and start to create buy-in among their local community to continue the service beyond that first year.
Thanks so much. That's such great nuance. What differentiates you from a local SBA group, for example?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of things, first of all, but to be honest, we don't really spend a lot of time thinking about that because we're not competing with them. Our goal is to kind of fill in some of the gaps around their services or where they deliver their services. And the communities that we partner with that invite us into their community to power these services, they've identified a gap for whatever reason. In Oaks, North Dakota, for example, their local SBDC office is 100 miles away. So they identified, hey, there's a gap. Our entrepreneurs aren't going to travel 100 miles and they don't really do a whole lot of virtual. So they brought us in. The Wahpeton, North Dakota, that's through the Southern Valley Economic Development Authority. The executive director of that organization was an SBDC counselor. And so he really likes the idea that for his organization, they're not referring entrepreneurs to a third party to receive these services. We provide direct reports and feedback to our partners in these communities so that they can wrap our coaching and our services with their other things. So every time we do a session with an entrepreneur in Wahpeton, North Dakota, Justin, who is the executive director's name, who used to be an SBDC counselor, he gets a report and he sees things like, oh, this entrepreneur is ready to start looking for a storefront. And he can then use the resources that his organization has, like site identification or workforce development or grant writing, to continue to support that entrepreneur. But most importantly, he really appreciates it because he's not losing that relationship with his local business by referring them to a third party that, because of confidentiality, doesn't share results back with him. He's actually building that relationship with his local business by bringing us in to power these additional services on their behalf.
Great. Thank you so much, Jordan. And thank you for the work you and your team are doing in rural communities in the US. It's incredibly important work. And we appreciate you figuring out how to reach communities who, like you mentioned, are very much able and ready to innovate and just need sort of those resources. And so I'm going to bring up our next speaker. And this is our last speaker for our first session. But before we do that, just a reminder, if you're on the live stream, you can feel free to ask questions right there on YouTube. And if you're here in the Zoom in person with us, feel free to use the Q&A function for questions. And so next up, we have Naldo. Naldo is running Centro Community Partners and is very close by where I am in San Francisco, but he's outside. Naldo, take it away.
Thank you so much, Joshua. We're incredibly honored to be part of this inspiring group of change makers. Again, my name is Naldo Pelix. I head up operations at Centro Community Partners, a nonprofit focused on democratizing access to entrepreneurship, support, and capital. Our mission is to build thriving communities by providing underserved, low-income women entrepreneurs with education, one-on-one business advising and mentorship, and access to capital. Adela had a dream of starting a daycare. As an immigrant from Mexico, she was met with many challenges and struggled to find the support to launch her business. We know that entrepreneurship is a proven pathway for people in underserved communities to provide for themselves and their families, but there's a lack of access and support. Adela discovered Centro, and with our help, she was able to create a fundable business plan, receive advisory support, and access a $10,000 microloan to start her business. And last year, amid the pandemic, Centro was able to help Adela get a second interest-free microloan from Kiva to update her equipment and hire an additional employee. Centro combines technology and in-person support to help entrepreneurs start, grow, and sustain their small businesses. Building on our years of experience working with underserved entrepreneurs, we created the Centro app, a complete solution to provide equal economic opportunity to Black, Indigenous, Latinx, and other marginalized communities. I'd like to highlight three aspects that make our solution especially unique. First, we have created a solution that specifically is for underserved entrepreneurs, many of whom struggle to take a business plan template and easily turn it into a fundable business plan. Our app is almost magical. Second, we believe in a blended approach that leverages technology to complete repetitive tasks while embracing in-person support at the right times to go deeper. And third, we connect entrepreneurs to an ecosystem of support that many people don't know exists, an ecosystem that receives limited marketing funds to promote their vital services. Ultimately, we are creating a one-stop hub for entrepreneurs in early and concept stages to access capital and resources to grow their small businesses. We help all types of businesses, including service businesses like Adela's daycare and hair salons, handcrafted products, and all sorts of food businesses. The Centro app uses simple steps and simple language to walk people through the business planning process and connects them to local funders and business support services. Our free app is available for Android and Apple devices in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Russian. An example, when an entrepreneur like Adela downloads our app, she'll tap into the business plan section and complete activities on the app. When she's done, she'll tap on a button that says, "Send my business plan," and our app will automatically generate and email it to her in a format which she can further edit however she wants. Let's say that she needs help creating a contract to hire an employee. She can tap on resources, enter her zip code, and see a list of organizations that can help her. And using the filters, she can see and connect with the right organization to provide her with personalized legal support. She can also go to the funding section and see a list of lenders that provide loans to people in her zip code, and further filter by different categories like loan amount and requirements like minimum business age and industry experience. The app works great on its own, but it has totally revolutionized our workshops. Entrepreneurs first complete a handful of activities on the app, and then in the workshop, they can go straight into conversations, making much better use of their time. We also provide our tools to other organizations so that they can use our app and training methodologies to support entrepreneurs in their own communities. As you can see, this is a complete solution designed to provide underserved entrepreneurs with access to training and capital. Annually, over 10,000 people download our app. And considering the more than 300 annual workshop participants, we see that within their first year, over half of the entrepreneurs that were in the concept stage were able to launch their business, and about 20% accessed the microloan. As a response to the pandemic, we shifted our workshops to Zoom and reached out to all of our entrepreneurs to offer one-on-one support to help them rethink and pivot their business models and access capital through grants and loans. We have over 100 resources on the app. About a third are lenders, including Kiva and other local microlenders, and 2/3 are business support services, everywhere from marketing and legal support to organizations like Centro that provide in-person workshops and services. As we added resources to the app, we included a special option connecting entrepreneurs to each organization's webpage with additional COVID response resources. There are 15 nonprofits that are using our app and our tools for workshops in their own communities through our entrepreneurship suite. And in light of COVID, we waived the annual renewal fees. Last year, we released an important upgrade to our app, which leverages code sharing technology to set us up for significant scale and make the app a self-sustainable initiative at Centro. We're helping people all over the country find local resources and are helping entrepreneurs in our training programs find follow-on support. Also, as entrepreneurs find and access loans, we'll be able to generate referral fees. We've already been training other nonprofits remotely. With our new learning management system, we will be able to increase our capacity to train and support more than 50 nonprofits licensing our eSuite. Today, Adela provides for her family. She has one employee, raving reviews, and is paying back her loan. Adela is just one of thousands of entrepreneurs that have already benefited from Centro. Our team has demonstrated their commitment and ability to help entrepreneurs thrive. With your support, we will be able to build out a learning management system to provide more entrepreneurs with programming, provide a pathway for marginalized entrepreneurs and workers to build successful businesses and connect to local business resources, and scale our marketing to help hundreds of thousands of people, just like Adela, start, grow, and sustain their small businesses and achieve their own dreams, supporting themselves and their families. And on behalf of our team at Centro, thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Aldo. So, yeah, of course. One of the questions, excuse me, one of the questions we had here was, what sort of reach as of right now do you have? Obviously, you're based in California, but have you seen sort of entrepreneurs or nonprofit partners outside of California?
We have. The app is available to everybody, and so it's available all over the world. But in terms of our close partners, we have close partners and eSuite partners. A lot of them are in California, but we also are working with organizations in Denver, in New York, New Jersey, Washington, really all over. And I think our entrepreneurship suite allows us to find a way to provide that local context that's so important and powerful when combined with technology. The workshops that we offer ourselves, we do a lot in the Bay Area. We offer workshops in Stockton, the Inland Empire, New York, New Jersey. So thank you.
Yeah, and you mentioned as well sort of services that you've provided given COVID and what's been coming out of that. Would you like to dive in a little bit more to the specifics on that? And then also as a follow-on to that, what are sort of shifts, if you've seen any, sort of for needs or specific resources during this time?
Sure, absolutely. So obviously, like many organizations out there, we saw that the entrepreneurs that we serve really were hit hard with the pandemic. So we pulled together our advisors. We reached out proactively to all of our entrepreneurs and asked them, how can we help? And so we helped over 150 entrepreneurs with that. We had all types of questions coming in. We also had somebody join our team focused on access to capital. And just through that initiative, we helped 74 entrepreneurs access an average of $10,000 loans, access over about $700,000 in interest-free loans, as well as connecting them with, helping them with the PPP loans, the emergency EIDL loans. We had advisors helping, like I said earlier, with pivoting their business models and finding additional resources if we couldn't help them. We even had some people that we were helping them with the unemployment process and applying for unemployment. All sorts. We had a couple people that we helped with food stipends. There was a wide range of support that came through.
Great, thanks so much for that nuance. And then I think we have one last question here. Give me one moment. Can you speak more to the eSuite part of the model and how that works?
Sure, absolutely. So in general, everything that we do, we first look internally and we test things within Centro and where we were born in the Bay Area. So we test everything here. And as we see what works and what doesn't work, the great things we bring onto the app. We test with our trainers in our training programs, our workbooks, everything. We do that internally, and we're able to bring that as a product to other nonprofits and license it to them. It's a very modest licensing fee. We really want to make it accessible, but basically taking everything that we have internally, everything from our workbooks and the app and lesson planning and workshop management and surveying, everything that we do internally, and bringing that to our partner organizations so that they can do that in their communities, making whatever adaptations they would like to make. They know their community, they know how to best make adjustments. And so it's worked out really, really well. Our partners are really happy that they can rely on a tool that has been working for us and tested by us, and it's always constantly improving. Also, the eSuite partners are able to connect to a backend, and with the permission of the entrepreneurs, see the progress of that they're making. The other piece that's really important is that the ecosystem, and that we've been bringing in focused on the Bay Area and where we're offering the workshops and where our eSuite partners are offering the workshops to make sure that we have an ecosystem of local support resources to help support entrepreneurs that are in the programs. And later on, we will be bringing that out to the rest of the country.
Great. Thank you so much, Naldo. It was great having you, and thank you for telling us all about Centro and the work that you're doing. Enjoy the rest of the day. It looks like the sun's poking out now. And thank you all of the speakers in session 1 as well. We're going to take just a brief 2-minute break, and then we're going to get started with session 2.
Hey, Joshua, how's it going?
It's gone well. So thank you everyone for joining our second session. We are going to get started here with ideas that are focused on different jobs and workforces of the future coming back. And so you're going to hear some about trades. You're going to hear a little bit about childcare providers, green jobs, and workers in the logistic industry, as well as our youth. And so if you missed it at the top, our ask today of you is please participate with us, ask questions. If you have any, use the Q&A function if you're here with us on Zoom. And if you're watching through live stream, feel free to ask questions on YouTube. And so without sort of delaying any further, I'm going to get Alex to come up. Alex, are you ready?
Hey, Joshua, again, how you doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Great. Take it away.
All right, sounds good. Hi, everyone. How you doing? I'm Alex PA, founder, chief executive, director, also chief troublemaker of One's Up. And thank you so much for your time for this opportunity. What you're looking at right now is North Philadelphia. This is Germantown Avenue. If you look to your left, you will see our office space next to that yellow awning. We take pride in our communities and the people that we serve. I started One's Up under the alias Rising Suns about 14 years ago as a way to empower Black men to become change agents in their neighborhoods. And because of the success of the program, decided to build an organization that would be innovative and unique to workforce development. But I cannot do this by myself. I have an amazing team that not only reflects the community, but also has the same type of experience that our young people that we serve. So it really helps us really build out our work. We also have an amazing board that helps us out with the financial management and also the fundraising. And so with all of us together, we have about 150 years of experience with our respective fields. And I can't go on without talking about what exactly we aim to do. We enhance the lives of young adults through civic engagement so that they can empower their communities. And One's Up means that you and I are one and we rise and fall together. We believe that in order for a community to thrive, it takes equity and access to that in order for communities to thrive. So you're probably asking, why does all this even matter? Well, if you look across the country, 1 in 4 young people ages 16 to 24 are disconnected from employment and educational opportunities. But even if you look into Philadelphia, 31% of these younger Black adults they are also suffering since the pandemic. So what are we going to do about it? We drive economic growth and communities of color by improving the quality of life of young people. We believe if you help young people improve their upper mobility, communities will then begin to thrive. So what exactly are we doing? So all of our programs are rooted in social justice, and we help young people uncover their talent, their passion, gain transferable job skills, and it's all through civic engagement. So we have two programs. One is Once Up Academy that works with 16 and 18-year-olds who are in high school. And then we have our community action team that works with young people ages 16 to 24 who are disconnected from education and employment opportunities. So for all my number lovers out there, you guys are gonna love these few slides. We created a pilot program the last 6 months, and we worked with 15 participants in doing a community mobilization project. And as a result, 85% gained job skills, 85% completed the program, and 85% has either enhanced their resumes or created resumes. So if you look to your right, you're looking at Will Douglas. Will was in our program when he was 19 years old after being kicked out of his house for street-related activities. And so, I mean, on top of eating out my refrigerator, he was, he actually helped us out with our community engagement opportunities in the neighborhood, and he gained job skills. And as a result of those job skills, he received employment. And from there, he decided to go into school. So now he's learning web design and IT technology. And he calls himself Project X. We did not pay to say that, but he called himself Project X. And our goal is to build other Project X's. And so our foreseeable impact is get 95% of our young people employed. We want to reach 200 community members a year. And then we want to get 90% of our young people healing from all of our wellness activities. So who are we exactly targeting? Well, if you haven't figured out by now, we're targeting young black people ages 16 to 24 who are living in Philadelphia in poverty. And across the city, there's about 200,000 of them. 22% are Black and brown, and 17% are disconnected from employment and educational opportunities. So what do we look like in our vision? What do we grow at scale? So the next 10 years, we aim to be across the city, neighborhood by neighborhood. We believe that it's important for us to keep our identity, keep the intimacy and our culture going, but also making sure that we can expand in our impact. So our hope is to really become a McDonald's that actually does good for the community. And so what makes us really unique? From our research, there are a number of organizations who do the same type of work that we do, but research has shown that those are actually that they have actually failed. And from our work, we noticed that there needs to be 4 things that young people need in order to thrive economically in our community, in our cities. One is early access to work experience. They need access to educational opportunities, a space to heal from traumatic experiences, and also a space to address social justice issues. Some organizations provide 1 or 2 of these, but what makes us unique is that we provide all 4 of these. So what does our money look like? Since January, we raised close to $500,000. Our goal is in year 6 to actually become self-sustaining. So that includes all of our earned income model, which is fee for service, licensing our programs, outsourcing our programs, and with the help of our board, we're actually developing what that'll be looking like in the strategies in the year to come. So what will we do with the money from Workers Lab? So we are seeking $150,000 for the growth phase of our program that we're starting this fall. $150,000 to a lot of people is not a lot of money, but for our work and the things that we're doing, we can maximize this work. And with partners such as Public Allies and AmeriCorps, we can provide health benefits, childcare, and other wraparound services for our young people. So on behalf of myself, my organization, the 200,000 young people across the city, Will Douglas, thank you guys very much. And in old ones ups fashion, put your ones up. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Alex. I have a question here right at the top. Can you speak a little bit more about the specifics of the work you do and how you're doing it? And then a comment as well, which is thank you for doing this work. It's really great work that is needed.
Thank you. Our biggest goal is how to create a space for young people to have their voices be heard and for them to really implement projects that they believe is a really concern from the communities, and then actually coming up with projects that they can do to tackle those. So for instance, one of the biggest things we did for this past 6 months was a lot around what's been going around about getting more people involved around voting in elections. But our way was to do it was around community mobilization. And all to behold, our young people gained job skills and they were putting these things on resumes. So between all the work that they were doing, people don't realize that giving back to the community and tackling issues in the neighborhood, you can actually gain job skills. And so that's our whole goal, is to find those opportunities. So our community action team is an 11-month program for those who are not in school. And then for those who are in school, we have our Once Up Academy. So our goal is how to prevent them from not being in school or working when they graduate high school. And for those is to get those in our community action team back into the workforce into school. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, that was great. Do you already have established pipelines for sort of some specific jobs, or are there specific types of jobs that you've seen these youth translate into, post-program or during their time participating with your program?
Yep. So it was funny when we first started off, we were looking at public sector civic engagement jobs, but after these past 6 months, it was funny because our young people are so creative. And the way that the workforce is looking right now, we're looking at what does it look like for them to look into education, because there's a lot of our young people who would love to get an education. So we're looking at opportunities to work with partners that do things around education. We also noticed that there's a lot of them who still want to do community engagement. And so we had still the angle of those who want to stay in the public sector. But we also realized there's this whole angle around communication and innovation. So a lot of our young people like to do digital production, technology, and all of them are on social media. I thought that I was hip when Facebook and Instagram came out, but once TikTok came, so you guys got me there. But they're teaching me all these things, but it's realized that these are jobs that are out there. So how can we use the community and improving the community as a way for them to gain those skills? And then we are creating a coalition, which you see in there in our program as far as hiring a staff person. That person is going to actually help to create coalitions of employers who can then hire our young people by the time they finish our program. So that's our goal, is how to create coalitions of partners that can really help to build out those pipelines to employment. So once they leave the program, in those 11 months, they can be employed. Now, granted, if some of them find jobs within those 11 months, we're not going to tell them no. Ideally, we want them to stay, but that's exactly what it looks like for us.
Great. And then how are you reaching sort of the youth in your community? How are you finding participants?
So it's funny, we've been working with our young people since they were in 5th and 6th grade. And so that's why we're piloting with this. We've been, and so a number of them have gone off to college. Some of them are still in high school, and some of them are not in school or working. So we're figuring out what's the best ways to support them. But our goal is, once we do build out this group of our young people that we're working with, we build partnerships with like-minded organizations that we currently, quote unquote, compete with. And actually, once the time their participants are done with their program, we're building pipelines of recruitment where once they leave them, they can come to our program to gain more of the social justice, job skill aspect if they choose to do so in that area.
Great. And then I think just 2 last questions here. The first being, you mentioned sort of the fee-for-service model. Would you like to go a little bit more in depth in sort of what you have right now and what you're planning? And then speaking of plans, are you planning on growing to other locations? I know you mapped out sort of the other areas in Philly, but what are you thinking sort of beyond that?
Yes, really good questions. So our fee-for-service model, right now we're not doing, our goal is to, our board is designing what that looks like right now, but it's going to be outsourcing our programs. So if people want our programs where we're not located, they can do that. If they're in areas in which we can't outreach in other cities, they can license our program that way. And we noticed that our city needs more staffing agencies, especially in our communities. It's a really good way to generate revenue. So those are the ways that we will actually develop within those 6 years. What was the last question? I want to make sure I hit it before time runs.
Plans for the future.
Oh, yes. So we want to go to Miami, New Orleans, Oakland, and New York. So that's our goal, and to really hit other areas after that too, that are morely concentrated with the 16 to 24-year-olds.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex. It was great working with you and great hearing your pitch as well. Thanks for all the work that you're doing.
Joshua, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right.
And for all of you out there in the audience, thank you for the really great questions. Keep them rolling. And I see there are some Workers Labs alumni of the Innovation Fund. So thank you all as well for those questions. One last comment here for you, Alex, which is thank you, One's Up. Very inspiring work.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that. And I know I can't see you guys, but put your ones up if you can. All right. Thank you so much for your help again, Joshua. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Next up, we have Shahriar, and he's going to talk to us about his work that he's doing in Southern California. So without further ado, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Shahriar Kauschi, and I'm the Executive Director of the Warehouse Worker Resource Center. We're an organization based in Southern California dedicated to improving conditions in the warehouse sector through education, advocacy, and action. In 2012, we began organizing the largest Walmart warehouse in California, operated by a company called Schneider Logistics. This campaign successfully recovered over $20 million in stolen wages, improved health and safety for over 5,000 workers, and made jobs secure and full-time with a living wage. One of the worker leaders at Schneider was a man named Ramon Gonzalez. You can see him there on the left in the hat holding the banner. Ramon lives in Ontario, California with his wife and daughter, and has been working in warehouses since he arrived in the US from Mexico 20 years ago. He organized with his coworkers to demand changes, resulting in improved conditions, but those conditions slipped back over time. Ramon ended up changing jobs because he did not have a path to a career. His story is a common one in the Inland Empire. Over 200,000 people work in the warehouses of the Inland Empire. The region moves over 40% of the goods imported into our nation, and warehouse workers are among the essential workers who make the region an important part of the global economy. Workers moving goods for Amazon, Walmart, and other major companies are the backbone of our regional economy and of our communities. Unfortunately, the goods movement sector has two major and related problems. First, the job quality is low. Ramon started at Schneider as a temp worker, and after several years won full-time employment, but thousands of workers drift from temp job at warehouses with no path to long-term security. As the sector has grown in the Inland Empire, the poverty rate has gotten worse. Insecure employment has impacted the Black and Latino and Indigenous communities that comprise the majority of our region deeply, creating an impoverished working class centered around San Bernardino, the second poorest city in the nation. At the same time, the industry is not environmentally sustainable. California has passed landmark legislation in recent years mandating transition of transportation equipment to sustainable energy sources. Right now, goods movement is based on the use of diesel and other fossil fuels. Transportation creates the majority of greenhouse gases in California and in the nation. This has an impact on the local health of our most vulnerable people due to unhealthy air quality. We see this with Ramon, whose daughter faces asthma and other health risks in the region, with some of the worst air quality in the nation. We are proposing an alternative to addressing these twin and related challenges of poor job quality and unsustainability. The Inland Empire High Road Logistics Training Center will be a new institution based in San Bernardino, California, a city that has borne the brunt of warehouse development without seeing any economic benefits. The center will train historically disadvantaged people from the region, both currently employed in the sector and those looking for stable employment, and the skills of the sustainable goods movement sector. The center has received support from the State of California Labor and Workforce Development Agency's High Road Training Partnership Fund, which focuses on using greenhouse gas reduction funds to support workforce development projects. By working directly with employers to design and fill these positions, we will ensure that these workers are placed at jobs in the high road unionized workplaces, or in both in the building trades and the logistics sectors, with living wages and career paths. We're partnering with the Teamsters Union and the Inland Empire Labor Council to develop relationships with high road logistics companies and construction firms. In our first 2 years of operation, we plan to build out the new center including a recruiting program focused on historically disadvantaged residents of San Bernardino and the region. We've recruited a variety of key partners for this project, including technical training provided by community colleges, local community groups with experience providing supportive services, deep employer relationships and placement programs, and a research and employment support component. We expect to train our first 100 workers and begin the placement process in the next year, 2022. Our long-term goal is to establish the Inland Empire as a green logistics hub and a model for sustainable economic development for the rest of the nation and the world, with an economically and environmentally sustainable goods movement sector growing out from a high road employers in our region. We believe that our project is not just scalable, but can actually be industry changing. Just as California is supporting electric car technology and moving it to mass market viability through a combination of regulation, supports, and research, commercial truck and other vehicle technology will need scale in order to become economically viable. Southern California represents a market so vast, critical, and intertwined with the rest of the nation's supply chain that changing the logistics sector of the Inland Empire could catalyze this change for the whole nation and make it competitive with those similar markets in China and Europe. These jobs are more than just driving electric trucks, and the growth is accelerating. We believe that the policy environment requiring increasing use of zero-emission yard vehicles, forklifts, and light to heavy-duty trucks locks in the growth and demand for these jobs. There's potential to scale up to include electric infrastructure, building efficiency, and solar retrofitting, maybe even zero-emission truck and equipment production. Beyond technical training, we value organizing and leadership development skills. We're building these components into our curricula, something that is missing from most workforce development programs. We plan to engage these workers regularly after their placement to ensure they're not just staying employed, but moving up in their unions and in their workplaces. These leaders will become a force for economic and environmental justice in the region, holding employers accountable and also representing the potential pathways of the sector in their communities. We would use the Innovations Fund's resources specifically to establish a more robust and comprehensive support and training program for the most disadvantaged and historically disadvantaged communities to enter this sector. This includes leadership development, campaign education, and supportive services for people who would otherwise have trouble accessing these kinds of union careers. Workers like Ramon Gonzalez have toiled in warehouses for decades for the benefit of consumers like you and me. They have suffered from the impacts of the goods movement sector for too long. This is an opportunity to create a new road forward for the Inland Empire and for the goods movement sector. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Javier. Question right at the top here. What are the key sort of priorities in terms of this transition to green logistics for workers? What are, 2 or 3 of the key needs that you're seeing come up?
In terms of employment, we're looking to make sure that the transition matches the job needs. As you know, it's a very complicated sector. There's a lot of different technologies are developing from electric to natural gas. So making sure that the jobs that people are being trained for the jobs that are actually coming, and making sure that employers are creating those jobs, and that's why the partnership with the employers is so important. We're both educating employers about what the technology that might come consists of, connecting them with partners like UC Riverside and the state itself to understand what those opportunities look like, including potential subsidies, et cetera. And then making sure that say, okay, that's what the jobs will turn into. We need to train people in these specific tasks to make sure that there's somewhere to land. That's the most important thing, is we train people and we have somewhere for them to land, and those jobs are developing.
And have you seen those conversations sort of change within the county? And if so, how have they been changing?
Yeah, I mean, basically what we have is this, these deadlines that the state has have around electric trucks or zero emission vehicles. And so what we've been seeing is that the smaller vehicles, forklifts and other equipment have rapidly electrified. And, there's additionally, medium-sized vehicles like your delivery trucks like the Amazon or UPS scale vehicles are potentially, able to change over very quickly. And so that's the conversations that we're having with employers, but also with the state, because employers know that they have to hit these marks, in certain points in time mandated by the state. So what we're trying to do is make sure that the high road employers know that's coming. That the high road employers, the unionized employers, are the ones who are the first movers. They're the ones who are taking advantage of these programs, rather than the bottom feeders.
And how are you sort of working and developing skills for workers who might not have a technical background or might not necessarily come from this sector? I know you mentioned sort of cultivating things right in the Inland Empire.
Yeah.
And so what does that look like?
That's the work of this year. We're really kind of developing, and we're going to do a lot of research and surveying in our first year of operations this year before we hit the ground with real training in 2022 to understand and make sure that we know what those needs are, and those are in place, you know, a year from now when training starts. But we know that there'll be tracks. We know that there'll be tracks that'll be higher skilled and lower skilled, and that'll have higher and lower levels of technical need, from drivers, right, to people who are going to be working on electric vehicles and need that specific training, to people who are going to be actually installing the charging infrastructure, for instance, which is a lot more technically complicated. And we need to make sure that we're serving people in all those different levels, right? Different people will come in with different skill levels, but also different levels of capacity and time to be able to skill up. But we think that there's an opportunity for there to be, you know, shorter and kind of more specific and targeted programs for folks who are going to be drivers, for instance, and need to be able to know how the vehicle operates, but not necessarily need to fix it. And then longer term programs for folks who are going to be doing more intensive work. And I think that's the opportunity is to give, you know, a variety of opportunities to different people based on what they want to do.
And then which unions are you partnering with, or, you know, are planning to sort of in the pipeline?
So the main union in the goods movement sector is the Teamsters Union, and they've identified 3 significant employers in the Inland Empire that do different kinds of goods movement that are interested in partnering on this project, at least in this pilot point. And then the other main partner is the Inland Empire Labor Council, specifically engaged with the Building Trades Council. And so that's obviously like the construction, the installation. So the Ironworkers Union is the one that specifically has a lot of experience installing electrical charging infrastructure, but there's other trades that have roles in, you know, installing solar panels and other pieces of technology. So really the Building Trades Council as a whole.
Thanks for that. So we're getting some comments in as well. This work is so needed. Thank you for all the great work you're doing, Shahir, on behalf of the Inland Empire and workers. And then I think a couple of connection requests are going to come your way as well. Brandon says he has a pool of workers who will be interested in sort of getting plugged into this work. So more to come on that. But thank you so much, Shahir, for sharing with us the work at WWRC. And we're looking forward to that growth and all the great work you have in the pipeline as well over the next couple of years.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great. And so next up, we have Lani. She's going to be talking through a little bit about healthcare. Obviously, healthcare specifically childcare is become a hot topic sort of in the pandemic, especially with workers, essential workers struggling to find accessible, affordable options. And so Lani, take it away.
Great. And can you see my video? Okay, great. Sorry, I got a chat function on that. Okay. Well, hello. As Joshua said, my name is Lani. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives here at Carina, and I want to talk to you today about our childcare matching platform and how it can actually stabilize the childcare workforce. This project is about bringing the tools, to the care providers and families who are most often left out of today's childcare solutions: women, Black and other families of color, people born outside the US, and other historically underserved communities. Our childcare matching platform increases income and autonomy to care providers by marketing them and then matching them to families searching for care. This fills their enrollment slots and increases their income by literally thousands of dollars per match. Before solutions, let me lay out the problem. Under the current childcare system, the math just doesn't work out. Childcare providers have accomplished some of the largest collective bargaining wins over the last 30 years, and public policies are gradually improving. However, these family childcare providers, or FCCPs for short, are small businesses. They derive their income from children enrolling in their care. So without consistently high enrollment, these businesses close. This leads to communities losing access to care options, and the women who own these businesses often leave the care workforce permanently. This budget on this slide is only an example budget, as expenses vary dramatically and data is limited. However, we do know that the median FCCP revenue, not counting expenses, was $39,000 in 2018, which once expenses are included can result in poverty level income. Whereas the number jumps to 72,000 when at full enrollment, leading to stable take-home income and the ability to continue investing in their programs. So who are family child care providers? Family child care can be found in almost every neighborhood in the country. They're women-owned, largely women of color, state-licensed small businesses that operate out of their homes and specialize in small programs. Some hire assistants, also almost entirely women. They're the most affordable and flexible type source of licensed care, offering care on weekends and evenings, accepting child care vouchers and subsidies, and are culturally and linguistically diverse. And every one of the over 2,000 FCCPs on Carina is a union member. Of course, the impacts of COVID-19 have made this enrollment equation much worse. Our FCCPs have reported a 30 to 60% enrollment drops due to COVID-19. Assuming a very conservative number of $500 per child per month, that means that FCCPs who are already barely breaking even are now losing an average of more than $2,000 every month since COVID began. Predicting this enrollment crisis and the new child care needs from essential workers, Carina, in partnership with the family child care unions, created in March 2020 and launched in April, a child care matching platform that promotes family child care and connects parents with open and available providers in their area. Carina's child care platform is now live in 5 states, has over 2,000 participating providers, 50,000 site visitors, and reported matches in every market. And these matches are what we're all about. Carina's existence is based on building online tools to bring good jobs to care workers so care workers can provide the best possible care for those who need it. We do this by combining effective, diverse women and people of color-led team with key partners from both sides of the care equation to deliver a powerful outreach and marketing tool. The result of that work is that caregivers find secure and stable employment and further autonomy. Care workers find high quality care, and care institutions are strengthened as their members or constituents connect the institution with their own successes on Carina. This model is how we will grow the workforce, grow its collective power, and make providing care sustainable, high quality work. I want to highlight one of our first matches, Shahanda and Helena, as an example of our powerful outreach model. Carina partners with labor, responsible employers, community organizations, and government. In this case, Carina partnered with unions representing essential workers, the city of LA, and others to outreach to working parents looking for care. This led to Shahanda's union directing her to Carina. On the other side of the matching equation, Carina partnered with the child care unions, and Helena's union helped her join Carina on the provider side. They connected, and as you can see from the quotes, it was a great match. The consequence for the provider of just one match is huge. An additional filled slot can mean anywhere from $6,000 to $24,000 in annual income. Carina also practices human-centered, equitable design and agile product development to effectively build on the existing foundations of worker power in the care space. I want to mention 3 specific components of this approach. First, Carina's balanced. While others in the care space either trade safety for usability or prioritize the care seeker over the worker, our platform balances all of this. It is designed for the provider's ongoing success and safety, while also creating a user experience so easy that a parent can find and message a provider in under 2 minutes. Carina is relevant. Unlike other matching tools, our childcare platform is a curated list of providers with current openings, and we include only make or break information, enabling families to easily find a few providers that will meet their needs and message them. There are no unnecessary steps or information. Our partnerships with the childcare unions give Carina the competitive advantage of trust with the providers, so we know our availability data, which is so key for parents, is solid. Lastly, Carina is free. We've never charged our end users and never will. Not only is it not feasible, but it goes against our values of supporting the workers and care seekers that have been so historically underserved. So what is our next step and what does success look like? For our childcare platform, scale and sustainability means Carina reaches workers on a large scale through employers, targeted marketing, and community-based organizations, and has a diverse funding base. We know from our home care experience that this is a multi-year journey. The support of the Innovation Fund for this year would allow us to both prepare for post-COVID scenarios and continue thoughtful expansion. Specifically, we will be able to ensure that this platform is responsive to users' needs as COVID landscape changes, increase marketing, and expand the institutional partnerships that, like those that led to Shahanda and Helena finding each other. Carina isn't the first care matching service, but we are different. We're different because of our team, our partners, our processes, and our values. So here's my final statistic. Over 80% of our providers say they've never used or can afford marketing tools. And because of COVID, they're now experiencing historically low enrollment, but desperately want to support their communities. That's where Karina can help. We're at a unique moment to help them sustain through COVID and grow stronger, but we need your help to do it. Thank you for your time, and thank you to everyone at the Workers Lab and the Innovation Fund for all the support and feedback. I look forward to your questions.
Thanks so much. So first question coming up here is around data privacy. And so how are you ensuring sort of data privacy, especially as you scale? As we all know, it gets infinitely more complicated. And so how are you ensuring sort of the privacy for both ends?
That is a great question. Just an FYI for the group, I come from a labor background, and I know that workers' rights and workers' privacy is so central to this, and then put children in the mix and it becomes exponentially more important. So as I said, we balance safety. So we never include children's information. So we also have tools that make sure that you know how far away a provider is from you, but you don't get their exact address. That's up to the provider to give to you. We also have learned that we don't use photos. Photos are very, very standard in the care matching industry, but we learned the hard way from the home care experience that our home care providers of color were experiencing discrimination due to photos. And we're in the practice of mitigating and undoing historical harms, not making them worse. From there, it depends on the exact list, but the only ones who are able to access, so that on the family side, users don't have to give anything other than their first name, their zip code, and their email address and their phone if they want. And on the provider side, the providers are only invited from their union, so we make sure that they are eligible to join, and only the union and Karina can access that information.
Thanks for answering that with so much detail. We're getting some comments from the audience here. So needed for those who are still working in the pandemic. I'm a parent myself. One question, how do you verify providers?
Great question. So as I highlighted, Karina at this point is only licensed family child care providers. And one of the really unique parts about Karina is, as I said, our relationships with our unions, and specifically on the supply side of the worker. So all of our workers, our providers, can only access Karina through the union that represents them as a family child care worker. We have 7 across the country, and we send them a unique link that they are able to then send to their providers, and they check eligibility of, is this provider eligible based on our standards of membership, and are they eligible based on licensing? And then we have ongoing auditing processes. And if so funded, we will continue to figure out processes that make that licensing part even easier for families.
Great, and then we had a question, do providers connect with just one parent or family, or can one provider connect with multiple?
Great question. And as a parent of a 4-year-old who's moved the last couple of years and has used 3 different family child care providers over the years, I would have loved Karina to have been up and running 6 months earlier when I moved from Seattle to California. Because as we know, this is such a intimate experience, and you want to be able to find the right fit. So we definitely, parents are able to message as many providers as they like. We follow up with them via texts and surveys to see if they match. But it's up to the parent or family member, once they see the list of available providers nearby, to find ones that they like and match them. So it's usually not just one, it's usually 1 or 2 or 3, usually not more than 10, but like there's nothing stopping a parent from just every now and then I see, especially in Boston, the building trades right now are trying to find care, and I'll see that one family message like 10 providers because they're just desperate for care.
Great, thank you. And then had a comment followed by a 2-part question. This is very exciting, and the tie to unionization is so key. Could you share a little bit of why and how unionization is important in this often low-wage sector, especially for those serving other essential workers via state subsidies? And then the second part, but I'll repeat this, is how do you imagine the app helping build the base of unionized providers themselves to bring more workers into the movement?
Yeah, great question. Such a huge issue. Care providers, especially home care and childcare, have been historically undervalued since this country was formed, literally dating back to slavery, and who should be doing what work and how we should value it. And fortunately, some of the hugest wins we've had in collective bargaining over the last 50 years have been in home care and childcare, but they're very limited because of the access to funding. And so there's so many innovative things happening around funding for the care industry, and we see that happening right now. But Karina's role in this is to make sure that once unions and pro-worker groups are able to increase funding so that there's an increased care demand, that Karina funnels them to union work or high quality employers and not the for-profits of the world. So that's the way we're directing the demand. On the supply side, we help grow union membership by it being a member-only benefit. For instance, we've actually had members of family child care providers outside of Boston want to join Karina, and they weren't members. And a union organizer called and was like, "Hey, we'd love for you to join Karina. This is what it means to be a union member. Would you like to join?" And I've actually seen membership growth due to wanting to have access to Karina.
That's really great. Thanks so much, Lenny. And thanks for talking through all the details about childcare, increasingly complex sort of space to work in, especially during the pandemic. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Jana here to talk to us a little bit about trades work. And I've had the incredible privilege of being able to work with Jana. And so I'm very excited for you all to hear the incredible work she's doing, and not close at all to me in San Francisco, but definitely sort of work that we're excited about and looking forward to seeing growth in as well. Go right ahead, Jana.
Thank you, Joshua. Yes, I'm here repping the Midwest from Kansas City, Missouri. As Joshua said, my name is Jana Gibson, and I'm here to talk about an organization near and dear to my heart called Emerging Builders. Emerging Builders is located in the urban core of Greater Kansas City. We have a population of about 500,000 folks, and construction is a major employment industry here. But it's not major for most people, for a lot of folks. Construction is and always has been a white male industry. So how do we change that narrative? Now, I've been blessed most of my life to not really struggle as some people define struggling. I was married young, I was divorced young, and I had small children, but I still had adequate employment and adequate resources to raise my family. Others I know, they've not been that fortunate. They work check to check, job to job, trying to make ends meet. And note that I said jobs and not careers. A job is a short-term solution to receive a paycheck. A career is a professional journey, hopefully aligned with your aspirations and dreams. But what if you don't have a dream? What if you don't even know what you're good at? And most importantly, what if you've never been given the opportunity to figure that out? But that's why we exist. Emerging Builders was created to give women, Black, and other people of color an opportunity to be exposed to the construction trades to see if it could be a viable career path. So what's the problem? The problem is in the greater Kansas City area, there are 3.5% of women employed in the construction industry, 3.5%. So imagine the number, the dismal number of women in color. Of that, there are a few women in the construction trades, but tons of women living below the poverty line. Women ages 25 through 34 are the largest demographic of people living below poverty, working multiple jobs, trying to make ends meet, or receiving government assistance. And finally, for every 5 workers that retire, only 1 person is replaced in employment. certainly a gaping hole that needs to be filled. So what are we doing about it? Teaching construction is not new. There are several organizations in the greater Kansas City area that do it, but what sets us apart is that we believe in the power of supporting the whole person. So in addition to on-the-job training 4 days a week on a live construction site, Fridays are classroom training. In that, we teach financial literacy, developing interpersonal skills, defining and understanding their leadership style, and helping them develop an entrepreneurial mindset, in addition to a construction lab where they get hands-on training prior to going on the job site. And finally, the key factor for us is group therapy. And this year we'll be adding individual therapy as well. So how are we doing it? We're recruiting people from the communities and the neighborhoods in which we build. People that have the will, but not the skill. We're training people to create a diverse talent pipeline with the end goal of working with folks that believe in what we're doing, that will continue to teach, train, and employ our apprentices. So what does success look like? Success looks like Chrissy, Timmy, and Kaya. Chrissy taught for 17 years in the education field. Today, she's a construction business owner. She does rehab work. And last year, she grossed about $70,000 in revenue. Part of that was working on a job site with us. Timmy's a single mom that lives in public housing, and she's determined to get out and do something different with her life. Timmy now leads our emerging builder cohorts as they come in, and she's a site supervisor in training. And Kaya came as a junior in high school a year and a half ago. Not sure what she wanted to do, didn't have a great support system and kind of fumbling around. Today, Kaya is enrolled in college, and she's decided that she wants to pursue a construction management degree based on her experience here with emerging builders. So we couldn't do this incredible work by ourselves. We have an incredible team of partners, and the first one is Kobild. Kobild is a general contracting firm that goes out and gets the work for us to do. Their mission is to create beautiful spaces with emerging builders. And so their commitment is to always provide the work. Chess Inc. does our financial literacy through the Money Smart curriculum. Satori Counseling uses cognitive behavioral therapy for our group counseling sessions. And Maddie Rose will be one of our individual therapy partners this year. In addition to being a therapy partner, Maddie Rose came on last year, and they became our first partner with the new building construction of a net zero house. This year, we'll be piloting a program with the Kansas Department of Children and Families, working with young people that are aging out of foster care. 50% of people aging out of foster care don't find gainful employment until they're 24 years old. What are they doing for 6 years? 75% of the women and 33% of the men are living off of government assistance. We can do better than that. We're also a part of a sustainable energy and affordable housing conversation. This year, we're hoping to partner with a group called Climate Action KC and other groups to teach entrepreneurial skills for our emerging builders to become energy efficiency remediators, as well as teaching them how to get engaged with sustainable energy on site. So where are we headed? In 2020, due to the pandemic, we only had 2 cohorts of 6 people. This year, our goal is to have 4 cohorts of 5. We're enhancing our program to not only include a project-based group, but to have immersive training experience where they'll learn 5 to 6 different trades. We're looking to recruit new trade partners that will also continue to help employ and train our apprentices. We want to hire a program manager so that I can get out of the day-to-day and begin to help grow it, but they can get get the infrastructure together. We're looking at an entrepreneurial track. So if our emerging builders don't want to go to the union or don't want to work for someone else, how do we help them become successful entrepreneurs? And then finally, we want to purchase and rehab a facility that we can have as a training lab, but also house our counseling inside as well. changing lives one person at a time through technical training skills and life coaching. When hope and opportunity collide, we can have life-changing effects. Thank you for all that you've done, Workers Lab. Thank you for the information and the support that you've given emerging builders. Thank you to Joshua and the team that have helped us this far. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anna. That was really great. I have some comments here at the top. Amazing, that's where it's at. Love the comparison between a job and a professional journey and career. And then just some comments thanking you as well for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And so wanted to dive a little bit deeper just into sort of what the training program would look like. Obviously, you, as you mentioned, you've had people coming in from sort of different pathways in life. What does sort of, if you were to do a day in the life of a worker through the program, what does that kind of look like, and how long does it take on average?
Okay, so our program is 10 weeks long. And so Monday through Thursday, the apprentices come and they work on the job site and they make $12 an hour. On Fridays, again, that classroom time. So in the morning, we have like a get to know you, warm up, icebreaker session. And then we delve into the entrepreneurial track, then the leadership. And that's been designed by our staff person who's a doctor in education. And then we work with chess. That person comes in, and because of the pandemic, the class is more virtual for that, as well as the counseling. And I think the counseling was typically for an hour. It ended up going into an hour and a half because we found that it was very, very much needed. Initially, I thought, because honestly, Black people don't really like counseling, that's not something we do, that it would be a pushback, but it was one of the things that for them was life-changing. And so after that, we have lunch, and then in the afternoon, there's a 4-hour construction lab where they work on how to read a blueprint, how to read a tape measure. And at the end of that 4 hours, there's an exit ticket that they have to show completion.
Great, thanks so much. I have some more comments rolling in. Thank you, such incredible and much needed work.
Thank you.
Another question sort of around where you envision this going to over the longer term. Where do you see sort of the need, whether that's continued growth in the area that you're in or around the greater Kansas City area or beyond?
I think absolutely. It's a national problem. And I'll use the word problem and not a challenge, because a problem is something that can be fixed. We've just decided not to. And I think it's our goal right now is to do well, to do excellent in the greater Kansas City area. The Kansas Department of Children and Family Services, we're crossing the state line, which is huge for us. That was a goal for us in the coming years. But we believe that as we get the program where it needs to be, that it can be used in any community, as long as there is a partner such as Kobild that's willing to provide that worker experience. That's been catalytical for us.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, just a couple more comments rolling in here about how important the topics of both counseling and race that you're bringing up in those intersections are. So thank you for that as well.
Thank you.
And then, yeah, of course. And then last question here, what do you sort of see? I think you mentioned sort of a couple needs in terms of resources, extra staff people. Is there anything else that you're sort of looking for or in need of?
The easy answer is always money, right? Because we all need that to be sustainable. What we're looking, I think our greatest goal is to have a facility that's ours, that we can grow our program in. So right now, the job site is wonderful, and we wouldn't be successful without it. But there are other things that we want to do. For instance, having the various sites inside where people can work. But we're also looking at creating virtual learning in this field through through gaming, believe it or not, through gaming. And so we're looking for people that think ahead of the game. And then for me personally, as I look at emerging builders, where we have to get, that I've not done a great job at, is getting our presence more out in our community. And so we have partners that have come on with us, but we need a staff person or people in the community to continue to get the word out. So really maximizing that. Our own vehicle growth looks like having a general contractor on staff where we can go and be our own contractor to begin to have fee-for-service projects where we can start generating our own income.
Great. Thank you so much. I hope this is sort of part of getting the word out for you, this process. And we're recording this, so we'll be sure to put it out there. Thanks so much, Yana.
Thank you, Jeff. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
And so that concludes our second session for the day. Our next session coming up is going to be about cooperatives and control of work coming back. And so stay tuned. We're just going to take a couple minutes break here, and then we'll get kicked off with session 3, a little ahead of schedule, but we want to try and finish up so that we can get everyone back to their day. We know people have been zoomed out throughout sort of this transition to virtual. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in with us today. We're about to get kicked off with session 3. You've heard from workers and worker leaders working around entrepreneurs and small businesses from session 1. And from session 2, you heard about both workforces and jobs of the future, careers of the future, to Yana's point about that separation between jobs and a career. And now we're going to go into really the structural pieces of putting workers at the center of work. And so what does control of work look like? And how is that being worked upon, innovated upon within the cooperative space? So to close out our day today, we have 3 really inspiring innovators. with different worker-centered innovation. And they're going to be talking to us about their different initiatives. So welcome to the third session. If you missed it at the top, we are encouraging you to ask questions. Feel free to leave comments as well. You can do so using the Q&A function if you're here with us inside the Zoom webinar. And if not, feel free to use the functions on YouTube to leave any comments and questions you might have. The questions will be answered after the 7-minute pitches. There's a 5-minute Q&A section, and that's where we'll have your questions queued up and ready to be answered. Without further ado, I want to welcome Camille up. And so Camille's going to be talking to us a little bit about ways to uplift marginal workers and their model for what they're doing in Chicago. Take it away, Camille.
Thank you so much. Hey everybody, my name is Camille Kerr. I'm a worker cooperative developer and advocate, been in the field for about a decade now, and I'm here to introduce you today to a project that's near and dear to my heart, Shy Fresh Kitchen. So in October of 2018, I brought together a group of Chicago entrepreneurs, organizers, and fellow co-op developers, most of whom are justice involved. And our purpose was to support formerly incarcerated Black women to build a cooperative that they own and control. And on the next slide here, you can see our team. The problem that we were looking to solve is that formerly incarcerated folks, and especially Black women, face immense barriers when reentering. Even before the pandemic, formerly incarcerated Black women faced a 43% unemployment rate. I want you to compare that to 17% for formerly incarcerated white men. As a result of this and other factors, 75% of these women, a majority of whom are mothers, experience homelessness. So we were looking for a business model that addressed that issue. And we were also looking to choose a business model where we weren't only meeting our members' needs, but we were meeting community needs as well. There's a food apartheid that's affecting the health and wealth of South and West Siders in Chicago. In many neighborhoods, 82% of residents face food insecurity. The economic effects of the pandemic on top of this have been catastrophic, and they've been hitting these same exact communities the hardest. And now we're facing a hunger crisis that's unprecedented in modern times. And Joshua, we're actually one slide behind, so if you don't mind moving it one forward, thank you so much. So our solution is Shy Fresh Kitchen. We are a food service contracting businesses so we purchase food from local BIPOC owned urban farms. We turn that into fresh, hot meals, and we deliver those to local institutions, schools, nursing homes, nonprofit programs that feed our own communities. The business is 100% owned and governed by formerly incarcerated folks. And during the pandemic, the majority of our meals have been going to address COVID-related food insecurity. So in building Shy Fresh Kitchen, we brought some of the lessons from decades of cooperative development of developers before us, the wisdom of our field, into it. We understand that building a startup business is hard. So instead of starting from scratch, we partnered with an existing successful social enterprise in Boston called City Fresh Foods. I don't know if you know them. There's Glenn and Shelton. They're wonderful community advocates as well. And we went to replicate their business model here in Chicago. In our model, being pro-worker and being a competitive business are not in tension, because we have consultants that provide the expertise, the long-term business management and food business expertise we need. But at the same time, the workers are always the primary decision makers in the business. And if and when the members are interested in taking roles in administration and management, Shy Fresh offers supportive training they need to succeed. So it's a balance. There's absolutely no hurry to take on roles that make you feel uncomfortable or that you're not used to. But when you are ready, there's no ceiling. This business is your business. You can do any part of of the functions that we have. So one of the things that we know is that as a market-facing business, we have to be competitive. So we offer delicious, fresh, you can see it here, nutritious, culturally appropriate, familiar food. Food that you want to serve your own family, food that the people who the members and all of us who touch the kitchen, we bring this food back to our own family. And my kid does a little happy dance every time he eats it. And we're trying to redefine what institutional food can be, because when you think of that concept in your head, you don't think of the type of delicious food that we have. So we're redefining it. And for our potential clients that are values driven in their purchasing, our impact is unparalleled. We're helping to transform the local food ecosystem. Not only do we purchase from Black and Latinx owned farms and other food manufacturers, we also partner with local food ecosystem actors to collectively build food justice and sovereignty in our local ecosystem here. And we're also local worker owned business, certified women and minority owned. And despite having all of these values that we live into and this mission that we live into, we're also competitively priced. We're not necessarily the cheapest vendor in town, but our prices are absolutely in line with market. So you won't break the bank by working with us. We're super proud of I'm super proud of the members. We're super proud of what we've been able to do since launching, putting out our first meals in May during the early months of the pandemic. To date, we've served over 50,000 meals, primarily to individuals who are facing food insecurity. Our worker owners have had stable living wages, healthcare, dental, vision, life insurance, and the option to save money from payroll deductions. And during this pilot phase, our first year of operations, we've also achieved break even or been profitable for 2 out of the 9 months we've been operating. Our goals moving forward are super ambitious. We want to grow to 9 worker owners in this year, but then following that, we want to do 100 worker in 2025. We want to get to 100 worker owners. That's meeting City Fresh's size and 2.5 million meals. So you would imagine a $10 million business owned and controlled by 100 formerly incarcerated folks, primarily Black women. We're also doing replication in multiple cities. So after this successful pilot phase, we're now pivoting to offer deeper support for our worker owners to achieve consistent sustainability and to grow. This investment would be catalytic for us. It would give us the option to offer 3 company funds that our worker owners can use to survive, heal, and thrive. Our emergency fund is a safety net to meet unexpected needs. Our healing and growth fund offers money for our members to grow personally and professionally. And our entrepreneurship fund offers workers the opportunity to test out their brilliant ideas, either inside the company or out. And last, but certainly not least, you'll help us move into our new location. Look at Renee here with the keys to the 6,000 square foot building that she just signed for and that she owns with her fellow members. I didn't mention too our platform. We're building a platform that allows community and mutual aid groups to request free meals and then for donors to support those, which would make our healthy food access and food insecurity work that we've been doing during the pandemic sustainable. So in closing, I want to thank the Workers Lab for the opportunity to share our story and for your presence today. We're super happy to field any questions that you may have.
Thanks so much, Camille, and thanks for all the great work that you all are doing. It's exciting to hear about the scale and growth beyond just the model itself being an innovation. And so right at the top here, wanted to ask you a little bit more. You mentioned the platform. How is that sort of being built out?
So what we're doing is we're building a 2-sided website. On one side of the website, it'll be a portal for people who are interested in supporting food insecurity, addressing food insecurity and healthy food access. So it'll basically be a donation site that'll look a lot like, the Greater Chicago Food Depository or other places where you donate. It'll have all the options and make it really easy to provide either ongoing or one-time support. On the other side, we're allowing, we're connecting with mutual aid organizations and community groups that we already have relationships or new ones to be able to easily order food from us that is then subsidized by those donors. So instead of defining ourselves which neighborhoods need food, where we can address food insecurity, we rely on the groups that are closest to the ground. They say, hey, we're addressing this food issue that's happening right now and request food from us. And then it's subsidized by the donors who we're giving through the market. So that other side will be an ordering platform and a forum to make sure that they can easily order food from us and that the logistics of that will be smooth.
Great, thanks so much. And another question that's come up is, as you're scaling, or maybe this predated the scaling, how have you sort of looped in your bylaws and other systems to make sure sort of this model is strong? Obviously with cooperatives, workers are at the center of it and their voice is important. So how are you ensuring that?
Absolutely. So right now we're collectively governed in our bylaws. So every one of the workers is also a board member, and they're the primary decision makers, both at management and at governance level. Once we get past 15 workers was the trigger that we decided on. It'll be representative. So the workers will still vote for the board of directors. All of the board of directors will still be worker owners, but it'll be representative. It'll be a subset of the members who control the organization. But all of the outside expertise that we bring in, either as in the management consulting capacity or our advisors, they don't have any legal fiduciary decision-making role. Only the worker owners do. So we rely on advice and expertise from folks who can bring it and support, but the workers will always be 100% decision makers of this business. So it's built in. It might become more representative, so a fewer number of worker owners on the board, but it will be 100% worker controlled indefinitely.
Great. And then another question here, somewhat related, which is, have worker owners already bought into the co-op model, or is it more about just the employment, the opportunity to have a job?
Yeah, we've got 5 worker owners. Those folks that you saw on the first screen, 5 worker owners. They all have been doing payroll deduction to pay for their shares. Our shares are $2,000 each for the worker owners, and so they'll probably pay those off. They'll pay those off this year.
Great. And then a comment here saying thanks for doing this work. There's a lot going on in the food sector, obviously. And with the pandemic, a lot of that has changed. And so thank you for the work that you're doing sort of in this sector.
Yeah.
Another question I had is, how sort of are you envisioning, you talked a little bit about sort of where you're learning from. How do you envision sort of the work you want to do being competitive, right, on a broader scale, let's say in Chicago? For the areas, what sort of infrastructure have you all seen a need for, or what will you need to build out over the next year?
So as I mentioned, we're modeled after City Fresh Foods. So we have a wonderful model of a business that's gotten to 120 plus workers, and the infrastructure that they have, they have a much larger build. We just bought a 6,000 square foot building. They have a 16,000 square foot building. So we know that the extra space that we're going to need, we know that the relationships that they have, and in building. So, they are a minority owned business as well. And that's one of the reasons they're prioritized by some of the vendors that they have. So we knew we needed to get minority and women owned business certification. And they provide us information about like what kind of equipment we need as we scale up. So having that partnership has been invaluable to our getting started and growing.
Great. Thanks so much for your time, Camille, and great job with all the work you're doing. Thanks for representing your team out here.
Of course, appreciate you all.
So next up, we have Hayes. Hayes, are you ready to go yet?
Hi, folks.
Great. Great to have you here. I'll let you take it away. Go right ahead.
Thanks, Joshua. I appreciate Workers Lab here and the chance to to present our work alongside all of these other amazing panelists. My name is Hayes Witt. I'm the co-founder of the Driver Seat Cooperative. We empower gig workers to use their data to take control of their time and earn more for their work. My partner Matt and I share decades of experience helping low-wage workers of color transform their work lives and their communities through research, organizing, and policy change. When Uber and other gig platforms hit the scene, We saw people we knew from our past work going into new low-wage gig jobs and immediately realized this business model was going to change not only transportation, but the way work is organized in the service sector and beyond. To learn how to help, we started listening to drivers, hundreds of drivers. And while we heard many different perspectives, a common theme emerged. The drivers we talked with had been sold on the idea that they could be their own boss and earn a great living. But in reality, they were stressed out by the apps and barely making ends meet. They were trying their hardest, but they couldn't get the basic data they needed to improve their situation. And here's why getting the data matters. In order to earn a living in gig work, a driver needs to increase their earnings while minimizing time and mileage expenses. Because remember, when you're a gig worker, it's all on you. And it sounds simple, right? But as anyone who's done gig work knows, there's an insane number of choices you need to make to solve that equation. Should I do Uber, DoorDash, Amazon Flex, Shipt, or Instacart? What time and day should I drive? Should I accept that order? Where should I start working? And where should I go to get my next gig? Is the bonus I'm being offered any good? Now, imagine solving that equation over and over and over again while all the variables keep changing. And the only information you have is biased behavioral nudges that are coming at you through the gig platform's app. It's enough to make you give up and just do what the gig platform tells you to do, even if the pay is terrible. To take back control in this tech-mediated workplace, you need your own app that you can trust to give you an honest accounting with algorithms that serve you as a gig worker. Enter driver's seat. Rideshare and delivery drivers download our app and run it in the background while they go about their workday. The app allows workers to track their work time, their trips, their miles, and their earnings. What's different about our app is that drivers can see all of their information, not just the selective slice they get from the gig companies. We put data science to work on the back end, and we give drivers insights that help them see their true hourly wage, that help them compare their opportunities on different platforms and test different earning strategies, allowing them to take back control and agency at work. For example, a Portland rideshare driver used driver's seat to decide whether she was better off doing airport rides from downtown or serving commuters in the western suburbs during her 4 to 6 a.m. weekday time slot. These maps, paired with our net earnings calculation, helped her decide to focus on downtown. As we grow, we'll be able to deliver these maps directly in the app. Another driver in San Francisco recently told us he used driver's seat to test 2 new delivery platforms and decide which one worked best for him. And Fernando is one of more than 1,600 gig workers who have told us they want driver's seat's help. Gig workers aren't the only ones being shut out of the data they need. Driver organizations and policymakers want data to tackle the structural injustices inherent in gig work. Transportation planners and regulators need data to manage congestion, pollution, and transit impacts caused by all these new forms of mobility. And disrupted businesses are looking for data to help adapt to a rapidly changing economy. We've already partnered with the City of San Francisco on a rideshare study and are partnering with a national gig worker organization to document the impacts of Prop 22. Our cooperative sells analytics products derived from anonymized aggregated data to these other stakeholders. This is what allows us to sustain the co-op as an independent gig worker organization and to return profits to our gig worker members. As the size and geographic coverage of our data sets grow, the value of the data increases exponentially. And because we're a co-op, a majority of profits go to our gig worker members, with the remainder going to repay the investors who have helped us build the scale needed to have national impact. Gig worker members elect a majority of the board that sets data sales policy, and under our bylaws are at the center of all co-op decision-making. We are operating in a very dynamic environment. When COVID hit, rideshare work was crushed, but at the same time, on-demand delivery exploded. Hundreds of thousands of new drivers were trying to figure out how to earn a living in a flooded market, all while risking their health. We pivoted to serve those delivery drivers, and we're ready to serve rideshare as it bounces back at the end of the pandemic. We're raising $400,000 to be able to meet this moment. Between COVID impacts and the fallout from Prop 22, we're getting more incoming requests from drivers, planners, and policymakers than we can keep up with. And we need to quickly adapt our technology to be able to scale up. We've proven that drivers want this, that we can get the data, we can analyze it, and that there's a social impact market for the data. Now we're putting all the pieces together in one big city and using that as a base to expand to national scale. Fixing the gig economy requires new strategies that empower and unite the millions of people whose workplace is an entire city and whose manager is an app and an algorithm. Driver Seat Cooperative is pioneering a concrete path for gig workers to flip the power of data and algorithms on their head. Our members are already using worker-controlled technology to improve their security and freedom in their day-to-day work life, and to collectively win a just and better future. Your support now will allow us to seize this critical moment, and we really hope you'll join us. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Hayes. Right at the top here, I have a question about sort of data privacy. Obviously, as you've mentioned, you do harness the data, package it, and then sell it off to people in the space who are working either in policy or sort of social impact movements. So how is that curation done, and how are you protecting the data of your drivers?
The key point is that the products that we sold are analytics based on aggregated, analyzed data. So we don't have raw data, we don't have personal data or individual data going out the door. What folks get is analytics that helps answer questions like, how much congestion are we seeing in downtown San Francisco from rideshare? Or which communities are really being served by on-demand delivery food services? And so our products shed light on those kind of big picture problems.
Great. And then just a comment about this is really great work, obviously much needed. And then a three-part question. First, are there other models doing this?
There are some other models kind of like in healthcare. There's something called My Data that I'm aware of, but one of the things that really sets us apart is that we're creating a way for gig workers to participate in the aggregate value of their data. Like the real value of a gig worker's data is not a penny a point, and it's not sort of a like per trip or per point kickback that you get. The real value is in the way that it contributes to solving really big problems like congestion or greenhouse gas reduction. And so our business model is really built around giving gig workers a way to participate in that aggregate value. And we think that's a really important distinction from some of the other ideas that are out there.
Great. And then part two is, what does your work look like, and how has this changed since Prop 22 has passed in California?
Our work has kind of exploded since Prop 22 has passed. And I think that one of the things that we saw with Prop 22 is that there's wildly different stories about what the actual facts are on the ground for gig workers. And I think that gig workers themselves are super effective at telling their own story individually and as a group, but that there's also a really big need for independent, validated data about, what real earnings, what real expenses look like, and what real community impacts look like. And we've just got kind of an explosion of incoming requests for help with that.
Great. And then the last part of it, which is what if someone has to deal with multiple apps? Sort of how does a driver navigate that with your platform? Yeah,
that's a crucial reason that drivers use our platform, is because if you through the eyes of a gig worker, you're not like just a DoorDash driver or just a Postmates driver. You're juggling multiple apps at the same time. And so the data you need is data that allows you to see your own work across all of those, and also to compare the different platforms. So being able to collect data across multiple platforms is one of our key kind of ways that we give utility to, to our users.
Great. And then you do come from an organizing background, so would love to hear more context about sort of how you juggle, right, both the cooperative model and sort of, I'm sure, the different ends of sort of maybe private business interests or otherwise. And then do you have any plans to partner with unions on this?
Yeah, so one of the things we knew from organizing background is that independence and sustainability are really important. And so when we started the co-op, we wanted to have a business model that would be governed by gig workers and have that sort of built into our bylaws and our legal incorporation, but also have a way to be sustainable over time. So the work that we're doing can continue and can really be independent work. And that's sort of why we picked the co-op model for what we're doing. And then as far as partnering with other folks, yeah, we're a platform that that anybody can use to really get independent, verified insights on what's happening with the gig economy.
Great. And last question here, which is, could you give any sort of more clarity on sort of how the profits are broken up from the work and from partnerships?
Yeah, so again, sort of going back to this idea of gig workers participating in the value of their own data, we looked at sort of different ways that we could structure that and make that real and create guardrails that would ensure it, and evaluated kind of a number of different options and settled on this idea of a cooperative, because it does require that a majority of the profits do go to gig workers. The exact allocation of that beyond that is going to be something that our board sets as we become profitable, and just a reminder that our board is a majority of gig workers.
Great. Thanks so much, Hayes. Incredibly innovative project, and obviously much needed, especially here in California. So thanks so much for walking us through all of that, including all the technical components. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, really appreciate the chance to share this with you.
Thanks so much. So next up, we have Marcela to come join us. Thanks so much for being here. Obviously, we've heard a little bit about gig work and sort of the need for algorithmic innovations. And then we've heard a little bit about the food ecosystem and models for that. So I think you're the perfect person to end us today to finish this off here, talking about sort of service workers. Take it away.
Thank you, Joshua. Hi, everyone. My name is Marisela Gutierrez. I am the project manager of the Food Service Worker Cooperative. I have over 5 years of experience in the food service industry. I am a former cashier, bartender, not a very good bartender, but I worked in catering, I worked in management, and an array of different roles in between. And now I work to create a more equitable food service industry for the millions of undocumented workers, millions of women and people of color who work within. I'm working to build this worker cooperative with one fair wage and really tackling some of the biggest issues that the industry faces. So what are some of those issues that the industry faces? As you all may know, 2020 was not a kind year to food service workers. First of all, the pandemic hit, leaving approximately 1.1 million workers in California without jobs. And we anticipate that 25 to 30% of all restaurants may close permanently, leaving anywhere between 300,000 to 500,000 food service workers facing long-term unemployment and underemployment. And we actually keep hearing this from our workers, right? We have a worker named Luz who She's at retirement age. She's undocumented. She's a mom. She keeps telling us that like she used to work over 35 hours and is now working less than 15. Simultaneously, she doesn't have government support. Simultaneously, she doesn't have employer support. Workers really can't survive this way, and the pandemic really brought those issues to the forefront. 2020 also saw the passing of Proposition 22, which really affected food delivery drivers too, where drivers were misclassified as independent contractors and cut from the rights that they have as employees. And if that wasn't bad enough, 2020 also saw the continuous attacks on worker rights led by the huge trade lobby, the National Restaurant Association, the other NRA. They have been undermining workers' rights since emancipation and continue to do so during this pandemic. But one thing to highlight here in particular is the way that the other NRA gets their money in order to be able to lobby against worker rights. A large portion of the money that they use from their budget to lobby actually comes from workers ourselves. So they have a mandated food safety training that all food service workers need to take called ServSafe. Workers pay to get trained in food safety, and then that money gets used to lobby against us. Change is absolutely needed to tackle these injustices. Workers need power. We need collective bargaining power to get better working conditions. We need to stop the vultures, right? We need to cut that revenue stream that the NRA has with ServSafe and get it in worker possession. And we need workers to stop being exploited. We need sustainable jobs and dignity. Our cooperative actually tackles these needs with our two-prong approach. The first is the food and worker safety training, a food safety training that is mandated for all food service workers. They all need to take this training. We'll set a new standard to how trainings are done by emphasizing worker safety, which most trainings don't do. And we will also be able to provide a model to how the money generated is then used, because it would stay in worker hands. And this branch is different than traditional cooperatives because of its scaling potential. As we scale, every worker in California will be mandated to take our training. So we'll be able to reach all food service workers as we grow and build power and solidarity in the industry. Last point in this prong is that we're already moving forward to pilot this training in LA County. We've been named in a motion to be the creators of a training specifically for food delivery drivers, which doesn't exist anywhere. And we've already created the content, and we're launching this portion in the next few months. As for the second prong, the equitable employment piece, this is the ghost kitchen with delivery. For those of you who don't know what a ghost kitchen is the next generation of restaurants. Think of a warehouse with multiple kitchens within, multiple concepts producing food in one space under one cooperative umbrella, sharing resources, sharing space, sharing an identity. All of the food produced within is to go using our in-house delivery application that employs drivers as a vital component, really reimagining the way that food applications could be used for a force of good. And since many restaurants have closed, this is a huge market share opportunity for us, where we're really able to step into the market with an equitable, delicious alternative. So let me break it down for y'all really quickly. These are the three things I want y'all to remember. So number one, our cooperative will provide mandated training to food service workers throughout California. The workers take the training and simultaneously get ownership, leaving them in control of that money. Two, our ghost kitchen with delivery will give restaurant workers and delivery drivers much needed job stability. And three, as we expand, we'll be able to grow membership and unify the entire California food service sector, a strategy that will really grow worker power. Our cooperative will have short-term and long-term impacts on workers. In the short term, workers will get jobs with livable wages to be able to sustain themselves and their families. We also will be able to work in democratic workplaces and be able to dictate new standards for ourselves. In the long term, workers will be part of building collective power in our industry. Since every worker has to go through our training, our cooperative will organically organize all California food service workers, building a powerful collective force to determine standards in the industry. And in terms of scale, the first year we'll be piloting our co-op in Los Angeles. We're already moving forward with the food and worker safety training, but we'll also be piloting our ghost kitchen here. In years 2 and 3, we see ourselves expanding to key parts of California. And in year 4, we see ourselves expanding out of state. Our cooperative has strong ally support from workers themselves. We have 30,000 California workers from our emergency relief fund calling for this cooperative. We've created a worker owner board to help guide decisions that must be made for the cooperative, even from its inception. Also, we have strong allies in the state and unions. The officials that you see here are helping us establish this cooperative. They've provided small business support. They're excited about it. There's no high road alternative for food delivery in California right now. So they're anxious to support this alternative. And as workers, we really know that the time is absolutely right now. As the industry rebuilds, it's a pivotal moment that we need to create an alternative, equitable model that actually centers us as workers. Since workers aren't getting invited to the decision-making table, with this cooperative, we are claiming our seat, where we can collectively demand better wages and better working conditions, not only for ourselves, but for the whole food service sector. Thanks so much, y'all, for listening and for the Workers Lab. Appreciate y'all.
Thanks so much, Marcella. I appreciate this because I am and have been someone who has had to participate in ServSafe as a former bartender myself. And so thank you for all the great work that you all are doing to try and discover sort of an opportunity to cut that off and make sure that that advocacy for workers is being led by the right people and that the money is being funneled in a way that promotes integrity. Let me take a peek at the questions here. So I think one of the questions right off the top here is really asking about, there are a lot of ghost kitchens popping up. And so what would this really look like? And where are the sort of physical geographies of this restaurant?
Yeah, we see that like this is going to be the next generation of restaurants, and we see it. What worries us also is that it's being led by tech companies, right? Like the CEO of Uber Eats is investing heavily in ghost kitchens, and that's a really worrisome trend. We want to be at the forefront, and that's why we're leading this work. In terms of geographic location, both the training and the ghost kitchen will launch in LA County. We're still looking for spaces. However, we are in conversation with different allies here. We've had conversations with Mayor Brown in Compton, who's very interested in having it like our location be in Compton to serve residents with equitable jobs. A lot of folks want to create equitable jobs, not just rebuilding to those unsustainable jobs that workers had before, but like really thinking ahead and centering equity within it. And so there's a strong possibility that our ghost kitchen will be in Compton, but that is still a point that it's still TBD with us.
Great, thank you. And then a comment here, congratulations, really strong work that you all are doing. And then a question, which is what sort of kicked off the California side of things? Why California first? And then are you thinking beyond California in the longer term?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. Okay, so I'm a food service worker and I also work for One Fair Wage, right, which advocates for service workers. So if y'all don't know what One Fair Wage does nationally, they fight to eliminate the sub-minimum wage for tipped workers. So California already has One Fair Wage here, right? We get our minimum wage and we get tips on top. But what workers don't have in California is power, right? We're still, as I said in the closing, we still are not getting invited to the decision-making table. And so this is our strategy of like being able to help workers gain that power and be decision makers of their own future. And so that's what stemmed this work launching in California. And in terms of the second part of your question about like, is it going to move out of state? Yes, that is our intention, especially with the training aspect that we've already built. Once it gets launched in LA and we're piloting that, we'll be able to expand to other parts of California. And it's an easy transition to go to other states and really like build this big cooperative that the workers themselves own. This pool of money is like a game changer.
Great, thanks so much. And then another question, who makes the decisions about which worker trainings are mandated? And then would you like to give a little bit more nuance on sort of the path to replacing ServSafe?
Yeah, so food safety is mandated in California. Folks need to have that. What's interesting is that food delivery drivers didn't need to have that. Right now, food delivery drivers don't have that, but it's moving so that they do have to. We came in with LA County, and Hilda Solis's office in particular is moved a motion and named us as the folks who are developing it. We've developed it specifically, like not only in food safety, but also in worker safety. Like we're really aligned about keeping those two pieces together. And so in terms of like who mandates it in LA County, the Board of Supervisors is pushing that forward. And what was the second part of that question? I apologize.
And then no worries, just a little bit more nuance into what's the path to replacing ServSafe? Yeah, so one point, going back to like us being able to do this food delivery driver, like there is no competition in that field because no one is doing it. So that's like a huge advantage for us. But because we do plan to expand, not only have this training in the hands of food delivery drivers, but also have it in the hands of all prep cooks, like everyone being able to take our training instead of ServSafe. So a pathway that we see as vital is having a really good marketing plan, which the Innovation Fund would really help us with, so that as we go against these large players, we're able to defend ourselves. But also we have a bunch of like benefits that we offer, right? That make us more appealing. We're competitive in pricing. We offer the know your rights, the worker safety portion of this, and simultaneously with getting the training, you also get ownership to decide how that money is used. Great. Thanks so much, Marcella. It was great hearing from you. And again, thank you for all the work you're doing for service workers. It's near and dear to me, and I'm sure many other people on here.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. Great, so thank you everyone for tuning in today. You heard right at the top from our organizations working on helping workers come back with their small businesses through entrepreneurship tools. And then you've heard about all the incredible organizations working with youth in Pennsylvania, with childcare, and also with our trades work and emerging builders out of Missouri. And then you heard a lot about green jobs and logistics in Southern California. And thank you so much to our last speakers here working on both the analytics side of things through a cooperative model, and both to Camille and Marcella for their work in restaurants, in food, and for service workers. We want to give a shout out here to all our supporters. Obviously, this work wouldn't be possible if it weren't for our incredible funder partners that we have on board. We're very proud to continue to be able to develop work like this that's important, and we're going to continue to grow it, not just through the Innovation Fund in the future, but also through our Learning Hub work. So thank you to all our partners, but especially Michael and Kyra from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Noah from the New World Foundation, and Zoe, who you heard from the top, from Smith Futures. Thank you everyone for joining us. Happy to give you back sort of 15 to 20 minutes today of your day. And please tune in, email us if you have any questions. You can email innovationfund@theworkerslab.com. And we look forward to seeing you at a future event at the Workers Lab.